What's up, cooks? Welcome to the Card Kitchen. I am the Card Chef, and today we are cooking up 17 Trainer Stage 2 decks. That's right. I believe this can possibly be a thing going forward in Pokemon Pocket. Just like we have 18 trainers for basic EX Pokemon, we can now have 17 Trainer Stage 2 decks because of a rare candy. And so I'm going to show you a couple of 17 trainer decks that I think might actually be pretty good in Pokemon Pocket. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best version of Stage 2 decks. For instance, we're going to look at Miocarada. Now, it is very possible that if you just play like a standard Miocarada deck, it might be a lot better, but I do think this is a pretty interesting idea, and I wonder if going forward, these types of decks will become a problem, because as we always used to say, 18 trainer decks as new sets come out will constantly get better because we're going to be getting more trainer cards that are really good and can help 18 trainer decks out. But now that we have Rare Candy, of course, we can do 17 trainer. So the first one we're going to look at is Miocarada. And this is one of the more viable ones, in my opinion, because of Sprigatito. Because Sprigatito searches for a random grass Pokemon. Not only do you automatically start with Sprigatito in the active spot, because it's the only basic Pokemon that you have in your deck, so you automatically start with it in your hand. That means you automatically search when you attack with its cry for help. You automatically search for Miocarada because you're only playing 2 Miocarada in your deck and no other grass Pokemon, which means on your second turn, of course, if you don't get Marsed or red carded, which may be an issue in the future as well, but let's say we don't get Marsed or red carded, we already have on our second turn Miocarada and potentially Rare Candy in our hand, which means on our second turn we are now evolving and put in a second energy on the Miocarada line, which means you are now attacking for minimum 70 damage, if not 130 if you're attacking into an EX Pokemon. So this could potentially be a serious deck. Not only that, but now that we have Lily in the game as well, who heals 60 damage from a stage 2, you play that alongside Potions, a Cape, and Erica's, because this is a grass type Pokemon. This Miocarada could potentially stay online and on the board for a very long time. And then you make sure that the deck is not playing any Pokeballs. You also don't need communications, because the only 2 other cards that you'll ever have in your hand are Miocarada, which means you'll never have to communication. But what you do is you do play 2 Iono in case you don't have that Rare Candy in your hand, and so you can play Iono, get the Rare Candy in your hand, and hopefully the Miocarada, and then Bob's your uncle. Shout out to all those who have an uncle named Bob. And then, of course, we're going to play 2 red because we really want to make sure when we're attacking into those EX Pokemon that we're able to knock them out. And then 1 Sabrina and 1 Cyrus to make sure we can bring out anything that we need. Now, of course, the one thing that this deck is going to have an issue with is non-EX decks, so single prize decks. So, of course, this can be an issue specifically for this deck, and also just bricking, right? If we don't get the Rare Candy and Miocarada at the same time, because it is a 2-hard combo, it can be an issue. I'm not saying that this deck won't have issues, because we obviously will, and Sprigatito and any Stage 2 17 trainer deck for that matter, if you don't get to evolve it early enough, it will just simply get knocked out and you will lose the game. So very risk reward oriented type of decks. But now let's get into the next deck. So the next deck is a Butterfree deck. That's right. And the only reason I made this deck is because Caterpie basically has the exact same effect as Sprigatito, where it searches your deck for a random grass Pokemon and puts it into your hand. So it will work very similar to Miocarada. The interesting thing about this is, obviously, Butterfree is not even close to being as strong as Miocarada, so I don't really ever see this deck being played, but it is an interesting idea. The same concept as Miocarada, and is the fact that you can automatically start with Caterpie, automatically search your Butterfree and then evolve it as soon as possible. It does take a lot more energies. 3, believe it or not, is a lot more because it means you can't start attacking right away. And it only does 60 damage, which kind of sucks, but it does heal itself for 20 every single turn. Accumulate that with Erica's, Lilies, and potions and a cape, and you might be doing pretty good for yourself. So again, this deck is not as strong as the Miocarada version, but it is a version you can think about or play around with and have fun. And also, it obviously is a lot more risky because Caterpie has 50 HP instead of 60, and Butterfree has less HP as well and does less attack for more energies. But I just felt like it was needed to say because it has a similar concept. In fact, you can combine the two decks together outside of a 17 trainer deck and automatically start with a Caterpie or Miocarada, and then you're always going to get either a Miocarada or Butterfree in your hand, which means you're always going to be able to rare candy something as long as you have the rare candy, and it will feel very similar to the Wigglytuff Miocarada deck that we were playing previously, except you're playing these two, and you will obviously be able to have 2 grass Pokemon that can attack in the same deck as well, so that is something to think about in the future. Now let's get into the next deck. The next deck is Beedrill, and Beedrill is a very interesting deck for a 17 trainer because if you can get it online, and no, you can't search your deck for a grass Pokemon with Weedle like you could with Caterpie or Sprigatito, but if you do get that rare candy and that Beedrill in your hand, this deck can absolutely just run games. So if you're lucky enough to get those combos, just like if you're lucky enough in an Articuno Palkia 18 trainer deck to get Misty, then you're going to be able to eventually just beat your opponent by controlling the game, because what you're going to do is you're going to have only 2 energy requirement to attack with Beedrill, and once you have those, and once you evolve it, you basically already are going to have your second energy on it during the same turn, which means you're going to start attacking for 80 damage with 170 HP body on the board, which means you're going to be able to absorb a lot of shots, especially since you're playing a cape and a bunch of heals just like the other deck. You're playing 2 Erica and 2 Lily. This time we're not playing potions because it has already 170 HP. Instead, what we're going to do is play also 2 Team Rocket Grunt, which means you're going to be able to just remove a ton of energies and never let your opponent attack in. And then, of course, 1 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus, and 2 Red. And then of 2 Rare Candy and 2 Iono to increase your consistency of getting into that Beedrill. But once you have 2 energy, way before and Beedrill online, way before your opponent is set up, you're just going to keep removing energies from your opponent, and then even if they have more like 3 energy, you remove 1, and now they can get to 3 again on the following turn to attack into you. If you play that alongside a Team Rocket Grunt, your opponent is never going to be able to attack, and you can potentially just win the game by controlling the energy on your opponent's side of the board. But anyways, with that being said, let's get into the next deck. The next one is Charizard EX, the one with Stoke. This one, of course, is going to be very strong because if you can get the Rare Candy Charizard combo right away on the first turn you can evolve, basically you're already going to have at least 1 or 2 energy on your Charmander, which means once you Stoke on the following turn, you're either going to have to put 1 energy down, which means you'll have 5, or no energy down, which means you already have 5, which means you're going to be able to start attacking in for 150 damage consistently every single turn, and this version does not have to discard any fire energy, so which means you're always going to be attacking no matter what without having to worry about your energies, unless of course you get Team Rocket Grunted. And then of course you're going to be playing, like the other decks, 2 Lily because you want to be able to heal yourself as much as possible, 2 Pokemon Center Lady because it's a fire Pokemon, so you can't use things like Erica's or Irida's, 2 Potion, 2 Professor's Research, 2 Rare Candy, 2 Iona to increase the chances of getting that evolution line right away, 2 Red, 1 Rocky Helmet instead of a cape because you do want to be able to find those breakpoints when you get them, and then 2 Sabrina because it's more likely you're never going to have to you're almost never going to not one-shot somebody, so playing a Cyrus doesn't really feel necessary, but you can put it in those just in case instances where you don't get a one-shot knockout, and then you might want to put a Cyrus instead of a second Sabrina. But anyways, let's get into the next deck. So the next deck is Blastoise 17 Trainer, and I think Blastoise in general, even if it's not a 17 Trainer, might actually be one of the best decks going forward for a couple of reasons. It has 180 HP, can attack for 160 damage. Combine that with red, you're basically knocking out almost any single card in the game. And not only that, but you can combine Rare Candy and Misty in the same turn, which means you're not just ramping into your evolution on one turn, but you're also ramping all of your energy on one turn. So if you can get that crazy Misty heads flips, even if you only get 2, you're already attacking for 40. If you get 3, you're already attacking for 100. If you get more, you could potentially attack for 160. Even if you get 1 and it already has an energy on it, you're attacking for 40 as well. Even if you get 2 and it already has an energy on it, you're already attacking for 100, and so on and so forth. So this deck could be absolutely broken. And then with 180 HP and a cape, playing Iridas and Lilies in this deck can keep it online for a very long time. And then of course playing double Iono and double Professor's Research to get into those combo pieces that you need, because this is a lot more combo centric, considering you do need a Blastoise, you do need a Rare Candy, and you do need a Misty on the same turn to make that full combo happen. But if you do, it is game, set, and match. But then we're playing one Sabrina and one Cyrus, and the reason why we're playing Cyrus is because there are times where he will, Blastoise that is, be able to only attack for 40 or 100 and not that automatic 160, so you might find your opponent retreating a couple times, which means Cyrus will be come in handy in this deck. But anyways, let's get into the last deck. So this is the last deck, and it's a kind of a cheat because it's more of a 15 trainer than it is 17 trainer, because we're playing the Victory Bell alongside Aerodactyl. So Aerodactyl is pretty interesting because what you can do is you automatically start with your Bellsprout, which means once you get your old Ambers, you can put them down and then evolve into an Aerodactyl and Rare Candy into your Victory Bell. And then what you can do is you can, if your opponent has a Pokemon like Sprigatito or Magnemite or something like that, basically any Pokemon that's a basic Pokemon that evolves into a stage 2 line will have a maximum of 60 HP, which means Victory Bell with its attack for 2 energy, 1 grass, 1 colorless, who does 60 damage, will automatically knock it out because it can't evolve. And then even if it's not something you can knock out, if there's a basic Pokemon that evolves into a stage 2 or even a stage 1 that has 60 or less HP, you can just bring it out with your Victory Bell before it evolves and then knock it out. And not only that, but even if you can't attack and you don't want the thing on the bench to evolve, you just bring it into the active, and then because you have an Aerodactyl online, the next turn, if it can't retreat, it also can't evolve, which means you're going to knock it out with your Victory Bell. So this is a cool, interesting deck that you can try as well, and I definitely will be trying it. And anyways, that is it for the 17 Trainer Stage 2 decks. Let me know if you think these can possibly be a thing, or if they're just too risky. Do you think the risk-reward factor is worth it or not worth it? Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Like, subscribe, and share, and as always, keep cooking.